All right, in today's Whiteboard Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about balance. I'm not talking about muscular balance, I'm talking about the actual ability to stay upright, whether on one leg or two. I'm not talking about specific forms of balance either, like the ability to do a one arm handstand. Again, just the ability to maintain an upright posture and not fall over, whether you're on one or two legs, whether there's some sort of force being exerted upon you from someone else or something else. So being able to stay upright. And this is often an issue with athletes and also with older individuals. It's more of an actual day-to-day issue for them. For athletes, it's obviously an issue, especially in contact sports where there are individuals coming into contact with one another at great speeds and maintaining an ability to stay upright, being able to stay upright when changing directions is very important for a number of different sports. And then for older individuals, balance is actually a concern in the gym. So for athletes, balance isn't going to be a problem in the gym, it's going to be a concern on the field. But for older individuals, that's going to be a problem in the gym that might limit some of the things that they're actually able to do in the gym in terms of exercises that they're prescribed. And one of the first things I want to talk about when it comes to balance is stable versus unstable surfaces. So you see a lot of athletes training on unstable surfaces, and I see a lot of personal trainers and other coaches having people, just normal everyday people, train on unstable surfaces as well. This seems to be something that's become more and more common. So training on Bosu balls or kind of like the half Bosu ball sort of thing in order to supposedly increase an individual's balance. Unfortunately, that doesn't actually work because balance on unstable surfaces does not translate to balance on a stable surface, as in the ground. So training an athlete on a Bosu ball is not necessarily going to have any carryover. I shouldn't say it necessarily. It won't have any carryover to maintaining balance while changing direction and making or taking hits on a field. So that simply doesn't work. And for the average person, it's not going to do anything either, obviously. It's not going to improve the balance of an elderly individual. All it's really going to do is just decrease the effectiveness of whatever exercise they're actually doing. And that's not to say that things like Bosu balls don't have some limited application. They do. There's some different core exercises that can use Bosu balls. They're different. You can even potentially do some dumbbell bench pressing off of a Bosu ball, and that requires some increased scapular stabilization, some increased core stabilization, and even if you're doing it, kind of as a bridge, it involves the glutes. And so there's some limited application there. It's definitely not for everyone or for every goal, but there is some limited application to that. But again, that's not training balance. The goal of that isn't to train balance. It's just to get certain areas to activate more thoroughly. The other thing I sometimes see is random upper body exercises like curls done while standing on one leg. Again, that's not really going to do anything. I mean, you can stand on one leg all day, and especially when you're just moving like this, that's not really challenging stability on that leg a whole lot. And so that's not really going to do much. Most balance really comes down to some of it, especially in sport when it comes to changing direction, that is based upon technique to some extent. But largely, and especially when dealing with a general population and just normal everyday people, balance, unless someone has an inner ear infection, balance is going to come down to strength. And more specifically, strength of the lower body and the core. And that's the next thing I wrote down here, strength of lower body and the core. And that's really what's going to actually create stability, which is going to create balance. That's going to increase an individual's ability to stay upright, whether it's on two legs or one leg, whether there's some outside force acting against them or not. That strength is going to lead to stability. That's going to help them stay upright. Now, when we're talking about strength of the lower body, it's important that we don't just think about double leg movements like squatting. We also have to think about single leg work as well, whether that's split squats, lunges, reverse lunges. The list goes on and on. And also potentially something like very low step downs. And again, it all comes back to the individual and working within their means, because most older individuals who are going to be the ones who have actual day-to-day balance problems, many of them aren't going to be able to do Bulgarian split squats or lunges because they just simply won't have the strength. And so something like low step downs can work very well in terms of something that's very accessible for them, something that they can accumulate some work on similar muscles, some of the same muscles, and improve strength in both of their legs and improve that single leg strength. So single leg work, double leg work, and also we have to think about the ankles as well, because if the ankles are weak, it doesn't matter how strong the muscles above that are. If the muscles upstream of that are still strong, but the ankles are weak, they're going to have issues all the way up in terms of stability. And so there are lots of different small muscles in the foot and around the ankle that should be strengthened as well. And something like Ebbett's foot drills are a great place to start, and that's something that can be done every day, even multiple times a day. And it's really going to work some of the smaller muscles. And it's also going to get into some hip stuff as well, and improving hip strength and moving the hips in ways that people aren't used to moving them. And so those are a great drill. So working the ankles, double leg work, single leg work, and then we also want to think about core work, because obviously a lot of stability, just in general, whether it's pelvic stability, getting into upper body stability as well, it's going to be based around the core. And so we also have to keep in mind that that's not just the abs, it's also muscles in the back. It's all the way around. So, and again, and something that I should mention is that when we talk about training the core, we need to think about, especially in terms of stability, we need to think about isometric core work. So sit-ups really aren't going to help stability a whole lot. We need to think about isometric holds, because that's actually what the spine is doing, and what the abs are primarily intended for is to stabilize the spine and keep it in this position, even if there's a force being directed upon it, whether it's carrying something or there's someone contacting you. But yeah, isometric core work, so things like front leaning rest, side planks are great, side bridge, and also anti-rotation stuff is good as well. So instead of producing force while rotating, that'd be rotational exercises. Anti-rotation exercises would be, and you can do it with a band, you can do it with a cable machine, where you're taking that band and you're actually turning, and then you're holding. That band wants, or the band or the cable wants to pull you to the side, but you have to maintain that neutral position. And so again, that's really going to get people's core to really engage and to get them aware of what's going on with their core, with their back, their pelvis, and all the way down. And so exercises like that can really, really help improve stability and subsequently balance. And some other things, I mentioned before, low step downs for elderly individuals. Not every elderly individual is going to be able to do a side bridge. Sometimes they can do them from the knees, but sometimes they can't even really get into those positions very well. So something like a one-arm farmer's carry can work very well and get them to, it uses some of the same musculature, and just you can even it involves walking as well. I mean, you can just have them stand and hold a dumbbell or kettlebell, or you can actually have them walk, and that teaches them proper core control and how to control the pelvis while they're moving. And so that can be very, very beneficial. You can start out very, very light in terms of the weights for that, and then increase that. But that's really going to help them become aware of what's going on all the way down and how to effectively engage certain muscles to help them stay upright and prevent them from falling over and injuring themselves in day-to-day life. And again, it's the same sort of thing for athletes, although athletes can also get into rotational work. They can get into more advanced single leg iterations. They can get into higher loads on double leg work, and they can also work very specifically on the sport-specific aspects of balance that they may encounter, like change of direction. So those are just a few things to keep in mind when we talk about balance. Again, it's not how most people think of it, where you can train on a Bosu ball and then all of a sudden your balance in normal day-to-day life is really great. It requires an increase of strength, and especially focusing on single leg work, double leg work, and isometric core work. So that's all for today, and we'll see you next time.